Alright, hello everybody. New Year's Day. And I'm taking a moment to circle back to an observation where I had pointed out some anomalies to the narrative that Bobby Shafto represented in his observation of the morning composer. We had a location on the 12th from Redondo Park, boardwalk south end, from a height of 14 feet, mean sea level, above mean sea level. That's how Bobby typically does this. I believe at the time of this observation he was stating that it was a higher tide, which will be important to understand as well too. And I guess I will get right into what I am seeing. As this vessel clears this particular area, or is passing by this particular area, which I've been able to identify in Google Earth as being restoration point. What I'd like to point out is this particular house right here and this grassy area. Let's see if I can back up just a little bit here. This grassy area right here that the vessel is just coming into, as well as this section of houses. And another important feature is this white line that appears to exist just below this run of houses. So if we jump over to Google Earth, the house that I pointed out earlier was this one here. 3 windows. It's got the chimneys on each side. This house, the ridge line, Google Earth is saying that the ridge line's at 108 feet. The top of the house next to it would be at 88 feet. And in front of it, as we can see, not exactly sure at what stage this golf course is at, but we can clearly see the features of greens, sand traps, fairways, and the like. Now, I've identified the house to the left of, or to the right of the morning composer. Again, that would be this house here. The house next to it, I just pointed those two out on Google Earth, and we're looking at the grassy fairways for multiple holes. And again, we are looking at this run of houses that would be just to the side of this observation. So what do we know from this? Well, let's try to get along the line of sight here. Swing this heading around, hopefully, and walk in a little bit. I'm going to kill my navigation. I can't really move it. And down here in the corner we can pay attention to how Google Earth measures this area out. Now as we walk in on this run of houses that's next to the fairway, as was just pointed out, we see the development of a seawall. We've also already pointed out that the houses do exist there. This is in a very low area. The tops of these houses, you know, the ridge lines seem to measure out at about 26 feet for the ranches. This one right here, 30 feet. You got some 2 stories, but again, we are seeing something of consistent white underneath these houses. And the only thing that I can identify, as far from Google Earth, is the start of a rock wall, seawall here, and the face of this cement seawall. And if we come in to do some topography measurements, we have a grass line here at 9 feet. You get 12 feet further up. This rock wall, so it's 6 feet. Actually, it runs from 6 to 9 feet. This particular cement structure seems to have, for the most part, consistency on the retaining wall portion at about 9 feet. Looks like a step down area here that's 6 feet. 8 feet at this point. Back here in the corner we're somewhere 7, 8-ish feet across this whole structure. Now again, this would be mean sea level, and we know that Bobby's observation is at a higher tide. And taking a look at this, I'm again not really seeing where we're looking at anything in the observation. We'll go back to it now. That would indicate that we are not seeing all the way down to the seawall. So again, we come back here and we are looking across these houses. We are seeing that sliver of white. We know where the houses are. We know the elevations of the houses. We know that this is the fairway. So let's continue to run across here. So yeah, there is something that is notable there at the water's edge. We don't see any houses up on the hillside, and when we go back into this view, we don't really have anything up on the hillside that would indicate that we are not looking at the houses that are in question. So now let's again circle back from where Bobby was filming from, which is Redondo Park, and he was on the boardwalk, south end of the boardwalk, which I think I corrected before, which is actually down over here. So if I were to take and edit this, and move it down to, I believe the south end of the boardwalk is here. We're looking at right at 18 miles of observation. Now, if Bobby's at 14-foot mean sea level, and let's say the tide is, +3, it would be the tide would be at about 9 feet. The seawall would be right there at the 9 foot. Actually, no, that's incorrect. Mean sea level, 3 foot above mean sea level would put the barrier at about 6 foot above the water height at the time of that observation. So, where's the Saginaw? Where's the bulge in between Bobby and Restoration Point? Considerable distance there. And Bobby's claiming a considerable drop beyond a supposed bulge. This vessel is supposedly climbing over curvature that he's saying is obviously there. There's, no signs of flatness across this 18 miles that we're not recognizing any sign of curvature obstruction. Sorry to point it out to you, Bobby, but that's really just the facts of your observation. Again, these are the houses. These are the only houses that are there. We're seeing them all. I'm not seeing curvature. There's also lots of other things that could be pointed out in this video. As this vessel first comes into view, there's proportions of the vessel that you could pay attention to. There's a notable height of this area compared to what's painted a brighter white from this deck line up, and then we have the base hull, which is done in a dark blue. So when you see something like this where the center mass is compressed, the area above the deck is stretched, and the further darker part of the hull is also significantly compressed as well. We could start getting a little bit more balanced out vessel until we get to an area like here, where the middle portion of this vessel is stretched and the upper portion is significantly compressed. The blue hull is significantly compressed. I mean, this thing is visually changing based on the effects of the medium. This is really not even close to saying, well, this is just curvature. We are seeing visual effects, how this vessel is transforming in the medium. As it gets closer, the proportions start to work out. We start to see more of the hull The line here, as far as how the bow of this vessel looks, you can see quite a ways down, but that is all compressed, optically compressed. But again, the telltale sign of this is how this vessel is passing restoration point. So this is my 2 cents from being someone who is, observant. Actually, you pretty much can call out the problems there with the geometric narrative. I have an explanation as far as the medium. We are seeing refraction here. No doubt about it. And there's many other explanations other than curvature. That's all I can say here. So I hope there are people out there who appreciate the work that goes into analysis just as much as we can appreciate Bobby for providing observations. No one really has to agree with me, or they don't have to agree with Bobby either. Everybody has the ability to, engage their own brain and decide for themselves as far as what has been pointed out as to the narrative that you believe to be correct. I'm pointing out a bunch of things here that really don't jive with, again, it can only be explained by curvature. Because curvature, in my opinion, is not present when we can see 18 miles and identify the seawall at the water's edge on a high tide. Thanks for taking the time to entertain my work.